I've been joined by Dave and Jolene of CC41 now on the sofa. How are you guys?
We're good, thank you.
Good. First of all, how did you come up with the name CC41? How did it just come about?
CC41 is the utility mark from World War II. So when clothing was rationed, every item that had been rationed to the specific requirements got given the label CC41. And as we run a vintage shop, it was quite appropriate because we actually have clothes in the shop with the label CC41.
It kind of makes sense, I suppose, because of the clothes was rationed. They was working within strict confines. They couldn't use too much material and things. And because there's only two of us, we are in quite strict confines, so we have to be creative within those confines, like with the clothes. So I thought it sort of tied in quite nicely, really.
Well, you learned something new. I didn't know that. I'm a history undergraduate and had no idea about that mark, so that's really interesting. Let's get to the music. How did you meet, and then how did you just come about starting to make music with each other?
We met 9 years ago in Durham on an Open University course, fell in love.
And I've been together ever since, really.
Yeah, and got married 2.5 years ago. And I've been just making music the whole time. That was kind of what brought us together. So we've always been in bands. There's been more of us in the band, there's been less.
Well, it started out, didn't it, just me and you jamming, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then, finding singers and finding, bass players and things, and we've then come full circle. And it's just the two of us again.
We also found it was quite handy that it was just us two that generally agreed on what music we wanted to play. So it kind of worked that we were the married ones.
Yeah, sounds like a real modern love story. Yeah. What genre of music do you consider your work to be, and what are your main influences?
Post-punk, I suppose, whatever that really means. But I suppose bands like Joy Division, Jesus and Mary Chain.
Gun Club.
Yeah, a bit of Gun Club in there, and then Cramps.
As well, and then a few more modern bands, Forward Russia, Death from Above 1979. They're actually a two-piece as well, which is quite good. So we kind of use those bands as influences. We don't like to be quiet, as you will have seen earlier.
So how would you say that your music's changed over time, if it has?
Well, I suppose, in the early bands we were quite sort of poppy, weren't we, really? And then writing nice melodies and things. And I suppose you can only do that for so long. You always want to be changing what you're doing. So I suppose over the years...
We've gradually progressed. There's elements...
Yeah, we started to bring in maybe sort of heavier riffs, and then as the years went on, and then, we sound like that now, after all these years.
I suppose as my drumming progressed as well.
Yeah, you can do slightly more
as I got stronger,
things.
I could play heavier drum beats, and that kind of worked. And we've always had that sort of element to it, but I suppose in the early days, we were kind of influenced with bands that were around at the time. So I suppose our earlier stuff, we were quite into Block Party and stuff like that. A little bit more indie pop kind of with a slight dance sort of edge to it. So we've kind of progressed towards this much heavier kind of early 80s kind of post-punk stuff.
And the sound, I suppose, at the moment is dictated by the fact that there is only two of us, because we have to be quite loud, otherwise you've got all these empty gaps, really. You need the full sound of the pedals that I've got and the vocal distortion as well to just sort of make up for the fact, I guess, that there's no bass player or second guitarist or whatever it might be. So the distortion sort of helps to fill in the gaps as well.
Between the two of us, we've kind of got to do as much as we possibly can to still give it that full band sound.
So where have you guys performed, and do you have any venues that have really stood out when you've been performing?
As the two of us, we've only done 2 gigs. They've been the same gig each year, supporting Spear of Destiny, who are actually a band that we knew of. Kirk Brandon was somebody that we actually owned some of his records already. So we got a call to support them last year, and then they came back to Norwich again this year, and we put in to support them again. And they were quite pleased to see us, actually. So that was at the Waterfront, which we find is a pretty good venue, because from our music we are more sort of alternative. We need a bigger room for the bigger sound, so that just worked brilliantly. So the Waterfront is really good.
It was good playing there, actually, because the Spear of Destiny are an early 80s kind of sort of post-punk band themselves, and they've been in bands previous to that as well, quite sort of hardcore punk bands and quite heavy music as well, wasn't it, really?
Yeah.
So the fans who have carried on listening to them over the years kind of get what we're doing. They're from that era as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
So they're from that sort of late 70s, early 80s.
A couple of people said when we got up on stage they were a bit dubious about the two of us.
You see me and Jelly standing here.
What are these two going to do? But we got an absolutely amazing reception. We were blown away by how everyone appreciated exactly what we were trying to do with our music, and they actually got us, which was the main thing, I think.
Do you have any upcoming shows lined up?
No, so if anybody'd like to book us.
Yeah, we'll have a kick.
Yeah.
We'd quite like to, actually.
It's just, I think what we're finding at the moment is we're just trying to find our place to play in Norwich. Because of our style of music, it's finding bands that you go along with. It's, you know, trying to find a venue that's okay with it being that loud. Some of the venues we used to play at a few years ago are now not there anymore. So it's finding somewhere where you can make as noise as we want to make. So we've got a few things in the pipeline. We're hoping to do our own gig, aren't we? There's an amazing band from Grimsby called the Ming City Rockers. We're hoping to lure them down if we can.
But again, they're quite loud, and it's finding them the venue to play.
So if we can get a venue where the two of us can play, that's our next move, I think, is to try and set that gig up ourselves and get those guys to come down and play with us. So.
Sure. If we go specifically back to your music now, what influences the main themes behind the songs that you create?
I suppose the music that we listen to is a big part of it.
I suppose there's political elements in some of the songs, not specifically the ones we play today, but yeah, there's a couple of, I suppose, politics does come into it.
Yeah, and that kind of reflected that whole kind of, you know, sort of post-punk era, especially the punk era as well. We're quite sort of, obviously running the vintage shop and that, we're massively into the whole kind of Vivienne Westwood time in terms of the clothes and the anarchy and all that kind of thing. So a lot of that is in there as well.
Yeah.
We're mixing kind of like the clothes and the music as well. So it's all from that particular time. It works really well together. So I think that kind of influences quite a lot. I suppose
just expressing how we feel, really.
Yeah.
That's all it is. I'm not brilliant with the words. I can't always write this song. You do the words, don't you? But I suppose I can express myself through a guitar riff or the way I play, and that's all I can really do, I suppose. It's just, you know, write a riff, and that's how I feel.
Yeah.
You know, you sort of have to interpret it, I guess, however you'd like.
Do you guys feel that you've faced many particular challenges as a band? And if you have, what do you feel the biggest one is?
I suppose there's not been many challenges. The songwriting sort of comes fairly easily to us, I suppose.
Quite naturally to us, and working together obviously comes quite naturally as well.
Good job we get along.
Yes, it's very good that we get along.
I suppose the challenge has been kind of keeping going, because when you're in a band and then that particular band, you know, falls apart for whatever reason, you have to sort of start from scratch all over again. So all the songs you've written, you've got to forget all of those.
Yep.
So every time we've done that has been a challenge over the years, hasn't it?
Yeah, we have started again a few times. If we've been in bands with other people, we've had to start again because their contributions obviously stay with them. We can't carry on with things that other people have, you know, brought to the band. So that has been quite a struggle to keep it ticking over, because it was the two of us in the beginning. I mean, that's 9 years ago now. So to keep that going over 9 years, through different bands, through different styles. You know, we've moved as well. We've moved to Norwich in the last 5 years. So keeping that all ticking over is quite difficult. And just keeping going, because like running the shop is very busy for us.
Yeah,
so finding the time, you know, to keep rehearsing. Sometimes you get home and you've got, you know, 3-hour rehearsal from 9 till midnight, and you think, right, okay, got to get in the zone.
We don't know much different, really.
Yeah.
You just do it, and that's all you know.
Yeah, we were talking the other day. There was a time when we used to take the entire drum kit out of our little flat, go and take it to rehearsal, set it all up, play for 4 hours, pack it all down, bring it back again, take it back in the flat. So kind of, it's a bit easier now because we just go to rehearsal room. So we kind of keep saying to ourselves, if we could do that, we can keep going if it just means getting to rehearsal and playing. And so we kind of just keep that in mind, and that gives you the motivation to keep going. So
it just sounds like great commitment, really.
Yeah, I suppose it has to be.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
I suppose that's how we met. So, you know, music is a massive commitment. We've both learned instruments. I learnt piano from the age of 5. So, you know, you have to rehearse, you have to practice, you have to do exams, you have to, you know, and you're the same. You've taught yourself from scratch, haven't you? You're a self-taught musician.
Yeah, no matter how tired you might be or whatever it is, you know that you've got to go to the rehearsals, and you've got to do the gigs, and
you just got to keep going no matter how tired. But then you get that buzz at the end of it, so it's brilliant. So you do a gig and you get home, and we call it the debrief. We'll sit there till 3 in the morning going, oh my God, this
when
bit
the
was
adrenaline's
amazing.
pumping, and it takes you a few hours to wind down after gigs, doesn't it?
So
you have to kind of
That's brilliant, guys. It's been a very insightful interview. The performance earlier was absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
And good luck for the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you.